Thank you.
Okay, we'll get started. I believe it's a little bit after 1 o'clock, and this room is a little bit chilly. I'm not sure that the heat has been on, so if you want to keep your coat on, it's turning cold outside. So I'd like to welcome you this afternoon. Let the record reflect that this is the hearing for the community block grant programs that the state receives. I'm Senator Renee Enterman, and with me is Representative Katie Dempsey. And every year we have these hearings and we alternate who's in charge. And this year it's the Senate's turn. And I'd like to thank Representative Dempsey and the members of the House that serve on this subcommittee and for the important work that we all do. So, in accordance with the program that we have to follow from the federal government and the records that are kept, I have to read certain statements. So I'll commence with those statements. The legislative public hearing on block grants is hereby called to order. We've already done our introductions. From the House Budget and Research Office, we have Michael Pollock. And from the Senate Budget Office, we have Jared Evans, John R. Gee, Interim Budget Director for the Department of Human Services, and Mary Price, Chief Financial Officer for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental. Doug Reineke, Director. Director of Legislative Affairs for Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. Thank you, Doug. Before we get started, is there anyone who requires sign language interpreter services? If you would, please raise your hand. If so, please identify yourself so that an interpreter can position themselves properly. Let me repeat that. Is there anyone who needs a sign language interpreter? Let the record reflect that no one raised their hand. Thank you for attending today's block grant hearing. The purpose of the hearing is to receive public comments on the use of 5 human services block grants that Georgia receives from the federal government. The hearing also provides the members of the Georgia legislature the opportunity to listen to the views of private citizens and other interested parties on how block grant funds should be used for the state fiscal year 2020, which will begin July 1st, 2019. These block grants are Community Mental Health Block Grant, Community Services Block Grant, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Block Grant, Social Services Block Grant, Substance Abuse Prevention and Treatment Block Grant. Public input is an important aspect of the deliberative process that the Georgia legislature undertakes in making decisions about the state's budget. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this process. At this time, I'm going to ask Representative Dempsey if you have any comments.
I'll just say that we've got a great crowd here today. I think these are the most members of the legislature that have shown up for one of these while I've been here. It's a good crowd. I'm glad y'all are interested. This will be quite interesting.
Thank you. And we are delighted to have new members on our subcommittee. And if any time in the Senate, if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions. These are complicated funding formulas, and for new legislators, I'm sure the representative or I can help you walk through the programs and with the departments to understand the flow through of money. So at this time, John R. Gee will provide a brief summary of the grants and explain how we will proceed. Please welcome Mr. Gee. Did I say it correctly? G, sorry. My name's pretty bad, so I can identify with mispronunciation. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your service and your help with our committee.
You're welcome. Thank you, Senator Renee Altman. As Senator Altman has told you, the Department of Human Services will receive public comment on 3 federal block grants today. By federal law, Georgia is required to hold public hearings on these grants. These 3 grants are the Community Services Block Grant, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Block Grant, and the Social Services Block Grant. At this time, I will give you a brief overview of each of these grants. The Community Services Block Grant provides funds for services and activities that impact the causes of poverty, and to assist low-income participants. These funds are distributed to the local agencies throughout the state and fund a wide variety of services, including employment, education, meals and nutritional services, and housing services. Second, the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Block Grant provides cash assistance to qualified low-income households from home energy costs, weatherization costs, such as installation, caulking, and weather stripping, to reduce energy consumption and for energy crisis intervention. Number three, finally, the Social Services Block Grant funds various services such as daycare services for children, adult and persons with mental retardation, home-delivered meals, homemaker services, transportation, and protective services for adults and children. This grant also assists families to achieve and/or maintain economic self-support and self-sufficiency. At this time, Doug Renicky, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Director of Legislative Affairs, will provide a list and a brief summary of his agency's grants.
Thank you, John. Chairman Unterman, Chairman Dempsey, members of the Assembly, appreciate the time today. The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities receive public comments today on 2 federal block grants. The 2 block grants that we will have testimony on will be the Community Mental Health Services Block Grant and the Substance Abuse and Prevention and Treatment Block Grant. Brief overview of these 2. The Community Health Services Block Grant implements the provisions of the Mental Health State Plan by providing services to individuals with a serious mental illness and to children with a serious emotional disturbance. The second one, the Substance Abuse and Prevention and Treatment Block Grant, provides funds for community-based alcohol drug treatment and also prevention and early intervention programs. Those are the overview of our 2 block grants, Madam Chair, and if you have any questions, happy to answer it.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Department of Behavioral Health? For Mr. Reineke? Is there any questions? Let the record reflect there's not any questions. Thank you.
Okay, more details about each of these grants, including the type of programs that can be funded and their proposed funding levels, are included in the color-coded pamphlets that are available on the table. There is a separate pamphlet for each grant. Before receiving your comments, let's go over a few ground rules. We will take speakers in the order in which they sign up to speak. If you have not signed up to speak, you may do so at the table on the outside. Please give us your name and the name of your organization you represent. If there is more than one representative here from the same organization, please choose one from your organization to speak. By doing this, we will ensure that each organization and citizens get a fair chance to comment. You will be given 5 minutes in which to present your comments. There is a timekeeper who will let you know when you have 1 minute left. I will initially call speakers to the podium one at a time. As the first person is speaking, the next speaker should be moving his or her way to the podium. Then as I call your name, please make your way to the podium. If you have any written comments for the record or a copy of your speech, please place them on the table at the end of the meeting. Now, let's begin. And the first speaker that we have signed up to speak is Ms. Maureen Kelly from the Georgia Council on Aging.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming. I just want to know, first of all, how many participants did you have at your Thanks Mom and Dad event this year?
Less than when you were the guest of honor. We had 250. So.
Well, congratulations. We
Thank
appreciate all the work you do in your
Thank
nonprofit.
Thank you. We're working hard to help Georgia's seniors. And as a member, thank you, Madam Chair, for the compliment and also for allowing me to testify this morning, and members of the committee. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Maureen Kelly, and I am the legislative chairperson for the Georgia Council on Aging. As part of our responsibility on the council, to inform state government, we would like to address the allocations of SSBG funding today and strongly make 2 recommendations. The first one would be for access to home and community-based services. As you know, federal funding comes down in in categorical funding levels, and they come down without the ability to move from one program to the other. So they're strictly designated. However, SSBG funds are very flexible, and they can target the areas for addressing Georgia's needs. Last year alone, in fiscal year 18 and 19, we were able to see that home-delivered meals, transportation, and the myriad of services that are available for older adults were able to delay or actually prevent costly nursing home institutionalization. Likewise, the Aging and Disability Resource Centers, I'll call them the ADRCs, is another area of sound investment because they are the information hubs. That means this is where people call and they're told where to get services. They start by initially informing them of private pay services and then local services before they ever get to the state-funded services. So as you can see, both of these programs are areas where your investment dollars will save money as well as be more helpful to seniors getting the right help that they need at the time that they need it. So as a result, we strongly recommend that SSBG funding be allocated to both home and community-based services and access and the ADRCs. You know, Georgia's older adult population, and I want to just say this one more time, I know I say this every year, is doubling. This is the decade where it's doubling. And last year alone, it was increasing. The segment of this population was increasing by 45% as compared to the last decade, and as compared to 18% of the state growth overall, and 15% for children under 19. 45% was in the older adult population. Georgia can continue to serve most of its vulnerable among the growing elderly population using SSBG funds, and we thank you for your consideration. I have a copy that goes into the details of my comments.
Does anyone on the committee have any questions? Council on Aging? There's no questions. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
And thank you to the Council on Aging. We depend on y'all heavily.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak? No one else signed up, so if so, please approach the podium and give us your name and the name of your organization you represent.
Thank you.
Okay, he declined to come forward, okay.
Okay.
I'd like to thank each of you for attending today's hearing. Would any member of the panel like to speak?
No, is there anyone on the subcommittee that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Can you tell me what your number is? 50? Hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute. The computer's as cold as we are. It what? There you go, 50. Sorry. That's the problem.
There you go.
It's not the computer. There you go. Okay. You want to state your name, please?
I'm State Representative Valencia Stovall, and the question I have is concerning the CDBG funding. I know you talked about the low energy housing and energy assistance, but the question I had is about workforce. Can any of those funds be used for in the workforce related projects in the community?
I think I can answer that. The low energy assistance program that's specifically designated for heating, and are you familiar with that program?
Yes, the
Okay.
light heat.
Yeah, but you can't bring those dollars down and circumvent it and take it to another program. Now, you can work with like the Department of Labor and other federal funds on that particular, but not with the energy.
Yeah, I wasn't referring to the energy, I was referring to the community development block grant, that whole block of
Okay.
money. And so I was wondering, was any of the categories relating to workforce development or anything that communities can use those funds for, as far as whatever it might be, as far as they want to promote
I know that
work
workforce
readiness?
development from working on the total budget is in other agencies, but it's not in this particular one.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions that we could answer? There are no other questions from any of the committee members. Does the staff have any additional information you want input? Nothing? Nothing? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Do you have anything else you need to add?
No, I'd just like to thank the panel for being here and attending,
Okay.
and that's it.
Okay, let me just say on behalf of Representative Dempsey and myself that as co-chairman of each one of these subcommittees, that at any time if you have any questions, you need the staff and you don't know who to go to, if you're new to the committee, I know my chairman and I know her chairman too, is always accessible, and we'll be able to get you additional information and also work with the different advocacy groups if anyone needs any assistance. So with that, I'd like to conclude today's meeting. Thank you for coming, and we will see you next week, and have a good weekend. Thank you very much. The meeting's adjourned.